Okie dokie. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to A Woman's Roadmap to Complete Health. Trusting your ability to heal, embracing your perfect body as is, and feeling lasting peace from spiritual connection. And when used with intention, this roadmap will lead you on a journey towards your true self. One that's full of love, compassion, happiness, joy, good health, freedom, and that deep inner peace that we're all longing for. So, as always, let's make a deal. I challenge you guys to commit to taking just one action after you listen or watch this interview, because one small step can create a massive change, and I am living proof of that. I'm your host, Denice Buryn, holistic practitioner, energy healer, and spiritual life coach extraordinaire. And joining us today, we have the amazing Jennifer Rizio. Jennifer is a prominent figure in the field of personal development and spiritual growth. As a gifted intuitive, healer, and strategist, she has devoted her life to helping others discover their unique soul languages and embracing their true essence. So, Jennifer's journey began with her own pursuit of self discovery, which eventually led her to develop a revolutionary system known as soul language. Jennifer is also a master intuitive and the author of two best-selling books. Currently, she has trained over 30 practitioners worldwide in soul language. And there are over 5,000 individuals all over the world connecting to their soul languages. So, Jennifer, welcome. It's so good to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for being willing to share your journey and your teachings. So before we dive in, would you be able to share a little bit about your story with us and what got you to where you are on your path?
I would be honored to. Thank you so much for creating this forum space. I'm excited to be here. So, I was in marketing and PR for 17 years, and I wasn't allowed to talk to clients because I would tell them the truth, but media loved me because I would tell them the truth. And I was kind of mad. And people would call me aggressive. I'd be like, really? Because I just asked for a pen. Like, where's the aggression of that? But I knew that there was something bigger inside of me. Like I could feel that there was something bigger inside of me. And I knew that public relations was not where that bigness was going to come through.
Mm.
So I started to pursue and ask really big questions. And I started getting really big answers. And one kind of stone led me to another, to another, to another, until I was speaking at a conference about essential oils and life purpose. And I got off the stage and people were lined up to talk to me. And I was like, okay. They're like, can you tell me about my guides and teachers? I was like, uh-huh. They're like, can you tell me about my past lives? I'm like, uh-huh. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how I know all that, but I do know that. And I left that conference with a coaching business and the beginning of what is known as soul language because I sat across a woman and I was like, we're going to be friends. And I don't care if I see that other woman again. Like, what is that? And what I heard through divine guidance is like, oh, that's soul language. And before long, I had a paradigm that puts tangibility to soul in the soul of the business so people can create a clear, conscious connection to create transcendence in their life.
Mm.
That's transformation that sticks and that actually is practical because it doesn't matter if it can't fit into your everyday life and create everyday solutions.
I love that. What a powerful transformation from, you know, corporate, I guess
Yeah,
we could say, to completely diving in 100% into what your soul actually wanted to do. And I think that's, a large part of where many women struggle is, they're doing the job that pays the bills.
yeah,
There's no fulfillment in it. There's no connection to it. And they're just feeling stifled, feeling like, I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing. But what am I meant to be doing? I
right.
don't know. And so many people come up against that block of, I feel something bigger. I feel something
Yeah.
deeper in me, but I don't know what it is. I don't know how to get there.
Yeah, when you're starting to figure it out, here's a couple tips that I think are really important. I think you start to get to understand that that corporate American experience is a paid education.
Mm.
So start to notice how you're utilizing your gifts, how you're utilizing your talents, because people would come all over from the office. I would be the answer girl. And they'd be like, do you know? And I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And they would go off and do the research and come back. And they're like, how'd you know that? I'm like, oh, no, like I just do that. Right. Right. So being the answer girl is kind of what I do now. Right. And so it's really because you are using your gifts and talents, you are using your purpose. The delivery systems are off, right?
Mhm.
And so when you really understand that purpose in a deeper way and accept it in a deeper way, the delivery systems show up. I would be doing what I was be doing if as a bartender. It would be a really crappy delivery system for me, right? But I'd still be doing it. I've been in the grocery store and someone comes up to me and goes, blah, 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 and you could see on their face, like, why am I telling this strange woman all of my problems? Right? I've been in Russia where people have come up to me in Russian and I was like, I don't understand what you're saying, but I'm just gonna love you. And they walk away and they're like, you could see the relief on their face, right?
Mm.
So you are being your purpose. It's a being state. You cannot not be your purpose. We need to help you line up your delivery systems because when you feel fulfilled, right, that creates harmony in the body, right? Not acid, right? Acid leads to distress and disease, right? So we want to create as much harmony in the vessel so we can keep everything working in grace rather than in conflict.
Right. I love that. It's amazing how energy, um, what's the word I'm looking for? It jumps over boundaries such as languages or,
Right.
any kind of um
Human
world.
perspective.
Yes, exactly right. Like energy has no bounds, and it doesn't matter what barrier comes up. It's really about the energy that you're exuding. So I love that you work with helping women, well, people probably in general, just to craft their delivery system.
Yeah.
Like you don't need any more in you to make you any better. You have everything. It's just learning the technique to hone in that special gift and to then make it something that aligns and feels good, answers that sense of
Yeah.
purpose a little bit,
It,
right?
Yes, and it's also about asking different questions, right? So when people are stuck, they're stuck because they keep asking the same question and question,
Mhm.
right? And their soul is always saying more and more and more, and our little human brains interpret that as not enough, not enough, not enough, right?
Right.
So I remember at the beginning of my journey, I was like, I keep getting the same answer. I don't like that answer. Like, what is loving myself? What's it going to get me? Right. Well, it actually got me a lot, right? But that doesn't really help because that answer is so huge and I don't know how to take the first step, right? And so when you get those big answers, you need to go back to your soul and go, that's a huge, what's the first step? What's the first tiny step? Or ask a different question or involve someone like you and me to help ask really good questions and help you shift that energy so you can be one with everything, whole and complete, and create what you want.
Yes, that's so powerful in just the question, right? And being open and honest to receiving the answer, right? And like you said, I don't like that answer. Well, sometimes we're not always going to like the answer, but
Yeah.
if you don't like the answer, rephrase the question, go deeper, ask, challenge your guides. What is
Well,
my next first step?
and I want to be very clear because I think there's a difference between guides and soul, right? And I
Mm,
think people are taught to talk to their guides. I go
yes.
soul first and then guides. So the soul is the end all to be all. And I didn't like the answer because I couldn't admit that A, I didn't know how to do it, and B, that it was really going to change anything. And C, like, that's something I terribly wanted, like, most of all, right? And the thought of not getting it
Mm,
would put me into like falling apart so quickly, right? It we need to go through the shadow in order to get to the light sometimes. And I think people are so afraid of the shadow because they're afraid that they're going to be told, you know what, Jen? You do suck. And
right.
your soul's never going to say that. The divine, universe, tree, Bob, God, cupcake, whatever you're going to call that, is never going to say that.
That's right.
Right. And so once we start to understand that our essential nature, who we are, our core, is loved, supported, and provided for, when we have that fundamental belief, that allows us to take those little steps to becoming whole and complete and healthier, because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And I thank you so much for jumping in on that clarification between the soul and the guides, because the soul really is ultimately you. It's your highest
Yeah.
self. It is you, your soul that has lived all these lifetimes and had all these experiences. And when we're reaching out to our guides, we're looking for, like you said, an outside source. But sometimes we need to just set aside all that outside and go inwards because
Yeah.
that's really where the deeper answers are. The answers are already there.
Yeah.
You just have to not be afraid, like you mentioned, to hear, the answer of what your soul is actually talking about. So,
Yeah, and it's a power issue as well, right?
hmm,
So if you're, even with your guides and teachers, if you're constantly doing your life by jury, which is like you ask this person, you ask this person, you ask this person, you ask, and by the time you're done, you're like, I don't know what the answer is, right? It gets confusing, and you're not capitalizing on that power inside of you. Nobody has any more power on this planet than anyone else. It's how we use it. There's no difference between me and the Dalai Lama. He just uses his power really well, right? So you can understand how to utilize your power more, accept it, utilize that soulful energy to create what you want. I heard a weird stat once that there's enough power running through our body that we could, if we hooked ourselves up to the power grid, we could like light New York City, right? So imagine that for a moment and imagine how we're underutilizing that to
mhm.
heal ourselves, to create what we want, to remember we're whole and complete, or we're using all that power to do the opposite.
To break us down
Yeah.
and to keep ourselves small and lean more into the story of I don't know how to heal. I don't know. I can't. Who am I? Right? All of that negative talk that we give ourselves, unfortunately. So I love
Yeah.
that you just tapped into exactly what I'd like to ask you next. So in speaking of, for women who want to feel happy, healthy, loved, free, and at peace, do you honestly believe that everyone has the ability to heal themselves and to heal their life?
Yes, I do. But I think where people fall down is they go from shame, fear, which are lower on the vibrational scale, and they want to go right to peace or love, which is like a 10 or 15 jump of consciousness. That's hard to do. And
Mhm.
you're going to fail, right? Because that's too much jumping. So I always like people to go, okay, we're in shame, which is the lowest vibration. We're in fear. Let's try to get to courage or neutrality. And then we can start to go up the scale, because when you're in neutrality, you start to realize that a challenge isn't because you suck. A challenge is just a blip in the road and doors start to open. So, yes, but don't try to go from like, oh my God, I'm crying on the floor to woo, unicorns. It's
Enlighten me.
hard, right? It's hard to do, and it's unrealistic for the human, vehicle to go about doing that.
Right.
So the easiest thing to do is to start to activate. It's not an affirmation, it's an activation, which literally changes your cell makeup. Start to activate trust. And it's simply using your body's divine intelligence to do that, because your body doesn't have free will. So it will put us exactly where we want to go, how we want to go. And even if you've never felt trust, that divine intelligence already knows it inside of you. So do you want to play with me, Denise?
Yeah.
Okay, so close your eyes and repeat after me. Divine intelligence,
Divine intelligence.
fill me with the feeling and knowing.
Fill me with a feeling of knowing.
Divine trust.
Divine trust.
And just tell me what you notice in your system.
Hmm. It's like this calmness. It's this
Right.
clarity of um, understanding that I don't need to know all the things. All I need to know is my very first next step, which is following my path, following my guidance, and
Right.
doing those things that bring me joy and bliss.
And
And
from there, you can take the next step. If you're trying to take the next step, not in peace, harmony, neutrality, trust, it's really harder, right? You know, there's this great movie called What About Bob? And Bob is like, baby steps, Bob, baby steps. And he does baby steps and he gets baby steps all from New York City to like Lake Winnipesaukee. It's a hysterical movie. And he baby stepped it all the time, right? We have to baby step it. There are huge movements in baby step. I think because I have warrior nature, and I know a lot of my clients also do. As warrior nature, we like hunger down and we want to get it done. We want to
Push
power
through.
through. And healing takes a lot of expansion and contraction, right? You have
Yes.
to rest and then you have to do the expansion. You have to reflect and then you do the expansion. And I think people just want to expand, expand, expand. And that creates this kind of push pull and war at yourself. And it doesn't really support a healing environment,
Hmm.
right? You can't do it on like ego on, as I say, ego on crack, right? You really have to listen to what your body, your soul, your guides and teachers, your angelic realms, right? Your whatever you call God, right?
Yep.
Are providing you with information, and you have to do that. And if you can't do that or be that, then you go, okay, what's in the way? And can I have the little tiniest micro step? Because that little baby step scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. And a lot of it, like what you were saying is just slowing down, right? Not trying to rush this process, not expecting that, you're gonna start awakening and in a year be all of these beautiful things, for sure. For some people, maybe, but
I've been
others
doing it for
takes
over
decades.
20 years, right? And I'm still like, the
It's,
more I know, the less I know. I know that for sure, right? But
yeah,
and if anyone like healing is such an intimate process, right? And I think the most important thing I want people to know is no one is in control of your healing but you. And I think when people are suffering, they tend to hand over their power to someone else. And that's devastating to me,
yeah.
right? I have heard healers tell a client, you're not ready for healing.
Ooh.
And yeah, it makes my blood boil.
Hmm.
And I said to that person, no one's in charge of you. Like you just tell me where they live and so I can toilet paper their house because, right, no one's in charge of you, right? But so often when we are low in energy, when we are low in strength, right, it's we can go, okay, just kind of just do it for me,
Yeah,
right? This is an opportunity for you to find that reserve or request it from your soul or request it from your guides and teachers, and then follow that next step and keep doing that, being consistent about the next step for your own healing versus having someone do it for you.
yeah,
Because we're just instruments. Anyone who tells you that they're doing it is lying.
totally.
Yeah,
We are simply just the facilitator, allowing
yeah,
you to expand, right? Or
yeah,
helping you to open up to that conscious expansion. But ultimately, like you said, they are the ones doing all of the work and all of the healing. And yeah, it's hard work.
yeah.
It is the surrender. Like, my God, the period of 5 years that I went through of just surrendering everything, it was not easy,
No.
but it was so worth it because of what I got out of it, on the other side. More peace, more calmness, more clarity, more connection to my soul, to everyone around me, and just
Yeah.
more love, more unconditional love. But I had to surrender all of
So, for those listening that do not like that word surrender, you have warrior energy, and I would replace it with acceptance, right?
mm,
Right? Because that's what the surrender is,
yeah,
right? It's acceptance. And I love that you were so willing to, even if it was hard, you were willing to accept, right? So I don't think people know what non-acceptance is. So non-acceptance is you're in London, you're looking at Big Ben, you have a map of London, you're going into the tube station, and you're insisting you're in Paris. Non acceptance, right? you can't change anything if you're push pull at war with it,
Yes.
right? If you have to accept where you are, this doesn't mean you have to like it. You just have to accept it and take the
Hmm.
charge out of it, and then things can shift.
I love that. I love that. Just take, like you said, taking the charge out of it. Stop making it mean something
Right.
that it definitely doesn't need to mean, right?
Yeah.
So, for someone who like this might be a new idea or like a lot of people just aren't even exposed to this way of thinking or, accepting and all that. So, where would you say is the best place to start for someone who might be new to the idea that their soul has a language? And if you could kind of share with us, like, what is soul language?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So each one of us has three core energies of soul. We call those languages. Your mission, how you fuel that mission, and your soulful personality. So when you create a conscious connection with those energies, you can move from pain and programming to consciousness. So we'll use me as a tangible example. So my soulful personality, language, or energy is called graceful warrior, action, movement, courage, and grace. Most of my life, not graceful, at war with everything. I have crashed cars, right? But the moment that I stepped into that grace, knowing that I didn't have to make war to get what I want, my life changed completely. I moved one house over. I got a book publisher. I found the partner for my life. I got bigger, better clients, right? So that conversation with my soul helped me shift the energy from being at war with everything to being conscious with it, knowing that I never ever have to create war, right? That my strength and my declaration is a way of receiving. So, what I do is I help people identify their soul languages and then use that information to help them understand their soul, create conscious connections, and move from pain and struggle to consciousness. So, did I answer your question fully?
Totally. Yeah. I guess the only part I would
Oh,
ask in there is
where
like,
do they
where do
start?
they start? Yeah,
Okay. So, do you want to just want to do another little?
I love it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, you're going to close your eyes. You're just going to connect to your heart. And for a moment, you're just going to imagine that you're knee to knee, eye to eye with whatever you call your soul, your essential nature, your higher self, doesn't matter what we call it. And what does your soul, your essential nature, want you to know in this space and time?
That she loves me and she's so
Yeah.
proud of me.
So there you are. You just took a little signy step. Now, the only thing I would tweak is she is you,
Hmm.
right? So often people feel disconnected from their essential nature, right? So when we start to feel that deep connection and that deep love, so I'm going to teach you one more thing. So take a deep breath. Let's close our eyes and repeat after me. Divine intelligence,
Divine intelligence,
activate
activate
the consciousness of love
the consciousness of love
in my heart.
in my heart.
And when you felt that, let me know.
Totally.
And now the second step is I offer
I offer
this consciousness of love
this consciousness of love
to myself
to myself
fully and completely.
fully and completely.
And you can see how she's beaming, right? Like that's
Cheers.
a right, that's a very easy first step that everyone can do no matter where they are on their journey, right?
Hmm.
But anytime that you're in fear, you're in disconnection, you're making war with yourself, you just pause and you do that exercise. I think it took 15 seconds,
Hmm.
right? And by doing that, you're going to make different choices, right? So when that really needy friend calls and is starting to go on for an hour and you don't feel seen and heard, you're going to now you're full of love for yourself, right? You're going to go, hey, I've got to end the call. I've got to go do something else. And you're going to feel deeply safe and supported in doing that because that love is flowing inside of you and will attract more of that love. She probably won't even call anymore because she can't get that kind of jolt of energy from you because there's nothing to give because you're sustainable. You
You're
don't
giving it to
need
yourself.
someone to love you. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you for sharing that
You're
practice. That's
welcome.
beautiful. I
Thank you.
feel really good right now. Um, so for someone who, is just starting to maybe learn how to connect to their soul language, what can that look like for them in their life? Like how can that start to unfold? What are some things that they might start to recognize going on?
Yeah, I think they'll start to recognize when they're discounting, devaluing, dishonoring themselves, and they'll get to pause and go, wait, that's not really, that's no, that's incorrect. Right? Um, you'll you won't have to kind of keep claiming your worthiness. You'll
Mm,
just feel it and be it, right? And what you'll notice is sometimes we're always going left because that's the pattern. And you'll go, wait, no, rights, let's go this way for once. I remember several years ago, I think it was like 20 years ago, I lived in an apartment and the walls were really thin. And the downstairs neighbor was having the same argument with her mother, her friend, and her boyfriend. And on the phone 3 different times. And she's like, you don't hear me. You don't listen to me. And I really wanted to go downstairs and go, it's not them. It's you, my friend. Right. So you're going to stop being in those patterns that have created your pain, your suffering, and your disconnection and your disease and discomfort. And you're going to start to create new patterns that are loving, are healthy, and are full of connection.
yes.
And that creates something better in your life.
And then you'll see it shift in maybe not even in yourself, but in those people around you. They'll start talking to you different. They'll start
Yeah,
acting different because you are being different.
yeah. You give when you change the energy field. If you're doing something different in a relationship field, and we're in a relationship field with everyone, then that gives somebody the opportunity to do something or be something different. They
Yes.
could shift. There will be those people that will not shift,
Yes.
right? And that's not your fault. And you get to let that go, and you get to love them for where they are if you want to stick around there. Mostly happens with family, right? And you get to know that you're whole and complete no matter what they're doing. But you get to really understand we're all on our own channel. We're just making cameos on people's channel, right?
Yeah.
And so when you realize that you're the mistress master of your universe, you get to see what you want to collaborate with and what you want to put into the relationship fields for yourself. This is not selfish. This
Yes.
is called creation,
Yes.
right? And when you do something that's in totally, truly in your greatest good, you do something that's in the greatest good of all for everyone. Those are the dogs. I have two Australian um, blue healers that are like wild dingoes. Somebody must have knocked on the door.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That's great. And
Welcome.
I love that the dogs chimed in too. So, how can someone create a sense of safety around learning how to speak their truth, learning how to really start to embody, their soul language?
Yeah, you have to understand what your truth is. And we're talking about big T's, not little T's, right? People try to do the little T and then they'll go the opposite. So they haven't spoken their truth for years and then they like, woof, and like they swing the pendulum the opposite direction. Here's some big T's. You're whole and complete. You're one with everything. You deserve to be loved, supported, and provided for
Mhm.
doing nothing just because you're a soul. And once you start speaking those big T's, the little T's are easier, right? So, a easy way to do this is to start asking yourself, if I knew I was whole and complete, if I knew I was loved and supported and provided for, what would I say and do in this circumstance, in this experience with this person? And you do that one thing, like, well, I never need to talk to you again. Like that's like that's huge, right? Like start there and then let's see how that, what that creates in your life
Hmm.
and how that changes everything.
That's awesome. I love that. Deserving to be loved for doing absolutely nothing, but simply existing unconditionally. Like, I love that. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Love that.
So I'll ask you one last question. Why do you consider speaking your truth to be a key component to complete health?
Do you have another hour? Because when you don't, right, that energy gets stuck and lodged in your being and creates distress and disharmony.
Mhm.
So, a weird fact, which is a disturbing fact, but I knew this woman who did meditate, who taught meditation in prisons
Mm.
for murderers. And all the murderers said the same thing. They said that the only time they felt seen and heard when they were committing a murder,
Mm.
right? So telling your truth is a part of being seen and heard. And if you don't allow that, which is your divine right, that energy will get lodged, stuck, and it will create distress and disharmony. I mean, breast cancer, one of the spiritual reasons behind breast cancer is non-nurturing. You're not nurturing yourself. You don't feel like you deserve nurturing, right? And so you're actually lying to yourself because that's a lie. And then you're creating no judgment or shame or shade. You're creating these situations which reflect how you feel inside,
Yes.
right? And so everything starts on a metaphysical level and an energetic level. The body's the last frontier, so to speak. So by speaking your truth, you're allowing that circling of energy to be released so it doesn't get stuck, doesn't get lodged, or your body's going to keep talking to you to
Yeah.
let you know that there's something out of alignment.
So when people are seeing symptoms showing up in their physical body, it's more important to do the deeper work and find out what's going on metaphysically, what's going on in my energy, what are my thoughts, what am I holding on to inside my body that I have been ignoring or stuffing down, and
Right.
but my energy is now manifesting in bodily form.
Yeah, and with no judgment. I don't want anyone to feel that they caused their sickness, right?
Totally.
Right. This is not about blaming yourself or there's no blame, right? It's about being off the mark and coming back to alignment and tweaking it so you can receive the full use of
Hmm.
body, spirit, and mind. And that's all it is. And it's about being consistent and being loving and getting the support on all fronts that you need and listening to yourself about what support you need.
Yeah. And then also, I think a big, important part of it too is the acknowledgement to the body to simply say, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing me what I was ignoring, what I was stifling, what I was not willing to see, right? It's any physical issue is really your body just talking to you
Yeah.
because you've refused to listen to every other form of
Right.
communication. So,
Right. And it's like sometimes we're trying to, read a college book when we haven't done Dick and Jane, right?
yeah.
And so it's okay, right? We're not, most of us are not taught to listen to our body, to
Yeah.
tune into our intuition, to be connected. So these are all things you have to learn because we didn't come with a handbook,
Totally.
right? Right. And so when you have that ability to go, okay, I'm going to move into the consciousness of love or the consciousness of neutrality if you can't get to love.
Hmm.
And I'm going to look at this through the eyes of observation, not
Yeah.
judgment. You become more powerful and you have access to more of your power, which creates more ability to heal yourself faster.
I love that observation, not judgment. Like,
Thank you.
just observe, be the outside observer, and don't judge because who are you to judge yourself?
Right.
And where does it get you? It gets you nowhere, back in the cycle. Well, my dear, I hate to say it, but we are out of time today. I have enjoyed our conversation so much. I would love it if you could maybe chat a little bit about your free gift. So you are offering is called Creating a Sacred Practice That Works. So can you tell the
Yeah.
listeners a little bit about that gift?
Yeah. So often people are kind of pigeonholed into a sacred practice like, oh, I got to sit on a mountain and meditate. Now, I don't meditate. I have warrior energy, so I need to move. So
Mm,
if I'm going to do a meditation, it's a walking meditation. So
yes.
I think people have been told you need to do this, you need to do that to create a sacred practice to be connected. And I don't believe that. I believe that there's four parts to a sacred practice, and you can create a sacred practice that you can integrate into your daily life every day. So it becomes sustainable for you, right?
Love
So
that.
right now, my sacred practice is which is going to be a new product. I'm creating a game for sacred practice. Like,
Love
right?
it.
So each day I get to like do my sacred practice and then color. Like, it's fun for me. Like, I'm like, woo, I'm having fun, right? I think so often people think that it needs to be serious, it needs to be training, you need to do it for hours. None of that is true.
Yes.
So, my free tool allows you to create a sacred practice that you can integrate and you'll do without it being something you have to check off your to-do list.
Yeah. Something that feels good, but also
Right.
gives you all the benefits of
Yeah,
just leaning a little bit into your joy, into those things that, feed your soul. I love
definitely.
that. That sounds so good.
Thank you.
I used to color all the time. It was so fun. So I love that you just popped that in there. Okay, so in wrapping up, if there was one single action step that you could offer to the listeners, what would it be for that one next baby step or micro step even?
I think the one step would be to, when you're in resistance, when you're fighting something, asking yourself, how can this be easy?
Mm,
Right? How can this be joyful? And if you can't get there, how can I have a willingness for this to be easy? Right?
yeah.
Because I think a lot of people spend a lot of time judging themselves and demonizing ego. And without ego, you wouldn't get off your couch. So it's really about integration and utilizing ego to its full capacity with love and with ease.
Yes. Love it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for sharing, Jennifer. It's been such a pleasure to share this space and to have this conversation with you. Again, truly an honor.
Thank
I'll
you.
make sure that you guys all have the link to her free gift below this little video. So thanks again. Any final thoughts to share with the listeners, Jennifer, before we go?
The easiest thing and most profound thing, or the simplest thing and most profound thing that you can do is try to remember you're whole and complete.
Hmm. Love it. What a
Thank you.
perfect place to end. Well, I hope you guys have truly enjoyed this interview as I have today. And I have so many more experts and incredible stories to share with you guys along this roadmap to complete health, long-lasting health. So make sure that you stay tuned and take the time to put yourself first, your health and your happiness first by listening to all of the interviews in this transformative series and also upgrading to the VIP All Access Pass so that you can keep these incredible interviews forever because they have been so good and juicy. And remember that if others can do it, then so can you. So many blessings. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next interview.